Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Back to just kind of do a what's been spinning video. Just want to share with you some of the things that I've been spinning since the last what's been spinning video. I was a little under the weather for a while. I was kind of off my feet for about a week or so. So I didn't really do a lot of listening and stuff there, but definitely kind of made up for it this past week. So as always, just a lot of random stuff, and we'll just kind of dive into this is what's been spinning. As always, iterating these videos, these are the albums that I actually kind of listened to from front to back. I didn't just kind of skip over a few songs here or there, or shuffling through, streaming or something like that. So these are the ones that I kind of sat down and took in. And we'll start off here with a great one, actually. Midnight Madness by Night Ranger. Fantastic, fantastic album. This is their 1983 release. So many great hits on here. When you close your eyes, you can still rock in America. Just, I mean, yeah, this was a slamming freaking album, and a lot more hits on here as well. So that's always a great one to revisit. Next one, Black Murder. Be curious how many people are familiar with this band because it's kind of a cool album. This is the Psych Funk, and really just kind of what the title is. It's just kind of this nice little combination between bringing in what was going on, like kind of the Hendrix Psych type of thing from the late 60s, and this came out in 1970, and like mixing it just kind of with funk. It's almost like a Hendrix meets Sly and the Family Stone. That was the way that my boy Scott actually kind of described it. And yeah, it's kind of just that. They even do a couple of covers of Foxy Lady on here. Now, no one's riffing like Hendrix on here or anything like that, so don't even get that in your mind. But just that kind of rock mixed in with funk and funk grooves and stuff like that. That's Black Murder, the Psych Funk. So cool album, definitely worth checking out. Not a very expensive one either, too. So that's always good. Next one here is just Four Non Blondes. This is their release from 1992. Bigger, Better, Faster, More. Kind of the alternate cover there that Music on Vinyl did. But yeah, classic album, huge album actually. I mean, of course, the song "What's Up" was a huge hit off of here, and you couldn't get away from that back in the early '90s. But when you really go through and listen to the rest of this album, it's just like so many freaking great songs on here. It really is. One of those albums I think that if you haven't listened to it in a while, like as you go through it, it makes you do that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Like those type of hits that just come off of that album. So really, really cool stuff. After the Fire, this is their 1982 release. I kind of dove back into some of the 80s kind of pop new wave stuff right here. Of course, they had the big hit off of here. Always pronounce it wrong. Dark Homicide. Remember, those kind of a big hit off of this album. Uh, only thing I've always said about this is like none of the album matches that song. Like that hit was a huge one hit wonder, very cool, big groovy type of thing. And everything else on this album is just it's kind of somewhat poppy and just doesn't quite match that, but still always a great revisit, classic 80s kind of one hit wonder there. And so that was a fun revisit. And usually about once a year or so, I'll go back and revisit this classic. Because I listened to it so much over the course of my lifetime. But Dark Side of the Moon gave that a spin the other day, and it's just always nice to revisit such a legendary album. From Dusk Till Dawn, another just great soundtrack. And I know you guys have seen me show this in a number of What's Been Spinning videos. Just kind of fantastic blues. There's some Stevie Ray Vaughan on here. Um, the main stuff I like off of, and there was a ZZ Top is on here. But there's I always forget the guy's name, Tito and blah, having a brain fart. But they kind of do a couple different tracks on here that they did for the movie. And then like After Dark is really kind of my favorite track off of this album, which is one of the ones they did. Just kind of a very cool bluesy, soulful with a little bit of like you know Spanish flavor in it. It's just a really, really awesome track. So great, great soundtrack there. Next, we'll go into I'm in a Strange Town. This is kind of a blues compilation, blues and gospel from 1927 to 1967. Yeah, just kind of some of that old school stuff. Stuff that sounds like it was, they sang and performed into a tin can. There was no production on it or anything like that. It's just the genius of the times. People like Utah Smith, John Lee, Blind Millen Jefferson, Memphis Jug Band, just a lot of just kind of random stuff there, but just really, really cool comp and great revisit of the old school blues right there. Next, we have Generation X, little Billy Idol. Before he went solo. Just made it huge in the '80s. This is their 1978 release. There's kind of a nice, punk pop mixture there. So that was always a cool revisit. Love my boy Billy. And then one of my favorite R&B bands, especially when you talk about '80s R&B, Cameo. This is Alligator Woman. I've always described Cameo as one of the most rock and roll R&B bands out there, just because they didn't follow any rules or any whatever. Like if they felt like doing funk, they would do funk. If they felt like being silly, they would be silly. If they felt like, doing something more rock and roll, they would do it rock and roll. They just played and did what they felt. And Alligator Woman is kind of a great example. This is their '82 release, and just another just fun '80s R&B album right there, with my favorite song off that being the title track, which is Alligator Woman. And then the classic, little Stone Temple Pilots. I know you guys know this one all too well, so I don't say much about that, but decided to give that a spin. I actually picked up the Analog Productions copy from the shop, and for whatever reason, I just kind of decided, hey, I'm not ready to open that yet. So I just went and grabbed the OG and gave that a spin instead. But yeah, great classic there. And another one that I think kind of gets skipped over quite a bit in this band's catalog, which is Heart Bad Animal. This is their 1987 release, and arguably my favorite Heart album. And I say it got skipped over because, they had the huge hits, Who Will You Run To and Alone back in the '80s. They got so much video rotation and everything else. And I think people got so swamped and so tired of those songs that it seems like a lot didn't really dive into the rest of the album. But with songs like There's the Girl, I Want You So Bad, Wait for an Answer, just kind of on and on. This is just a great album. One of my favorite Heart albums from front to back. So that's their '87 release. And I don't know why, as simple a cover as that is, I've always said this cover completely gives me the creeps for some reason. I can't explain why. It's just one of those things. But great album by a legendary band. Another one that you guys know all too well, Rat, Invasion of Your Privacy. Another classic there. You're in Love, and of course, Lay It Down, which, I can get cursed sometimes from saying this, but the guitar intro to Lay It Down is the best guitar intro of any rock song ever. And I know there's a gazillion things that people may want to pick over that, but something about the perfection level of that intro, the crispness, how sleazy it is, how sexy it is, how I've always wanted to use the word whiskey it is. It's just something about that lick just freaking nails it. So yeah, I give Rat big props on that one. Here we have Rainbow. This has been out of shape. One of the Rainbow albums I don't visit as often, which is why I thought, hey, let me go back and give that a spin, because it's been a little while. I've just always kind of felt like this one didn't have as much direction as their other albums. The stuff with Dio, even the stuff kind of after Dio, like all those albums seem to kind of have like they were doing something, but this one just seems to kind of, I don't know, just kind of floats all over the place to me a little bit. But, it was a great revisit. As I said, I hadn't spun it in quite some time. This is out of the Rainbow box set. And yeah, good spin, good revisit there. Just doesn't rank high on my Rainbow list, but it was still a decent album. Next, excuse me, Information Society. Of course, you had the song What's on Your Mind, which they should have titled it Pure Energy. It would have made more sense. But yeah, this is the 1988 release. So again, another fun revisit from the '80s. Little Riot, Thunder Steel, another fantastic album there. Definitely tend to go back to this one a couple of times a year. It's such a great album from 1988. So again, and as I was speaking about the one and only a minute ago, this is one, again, you see pop up my videos all the time, Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. Not this particular copy, but this is the first album I ever bought out of a store, and it's just the album that I never get tired of. It's the album that introduced me to MTV, the whole nine. So yeah, this one just gets spun so much. I mean, Crank Call, Catch My Fall, Rebel Yell, Eyes Without a Face, Do Not Stand in the Shadows, Dead Next Door. Just so many great hits on that album. Excuse me. The Delphonics, Symphonic Soul, one of the smooth R&B vocal groups from the late 60s, early 70s. This is from 1971. Big hits off of this are probably La La Means I Love You and Ready or Not, Here I Come, probably the two biggest songs off of this. Really just kind of that ease voice, slow, smooth R&B. Awesome stuff. Love those songs, but it's always interesting when I sit and listen to this album from front to back. By the time you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, I'm sick of all the whining. It's like, oh my gosh. But it's their style and the songs are great. But when you hear song after song after song after song after song of that soulful kind of whining, after all, you're like, dude, I need some Sepultura right now or something. But great, great group, great album. And little Tom Petty, Greatest Hits, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And again, you guys know all of that. It's another fantastic 2 LP Greatest Hits album there. Little Otis, My. I hadn't spun any Otis in a while. This was kind of a good revisit. Of course, on here you have Try a Little Tenderness, Day Tripper, and what else on here? My Lover's Prayer. Yeah, just Otis, being the genius that he is. Autograph, little just kind of solid 80s guitar rock right there. And this is a Sign In Please. And of course, you have Turn Up the Radio on this. Fantastic, just pure 80s rock song there. Then we have Little Poison, Look What the Cat Dragged In, their debut album. I Want Action, Look What the Cat Dragged In, Talk Dirty to Me, of course, Want Some, Need Some, Blame It on You. I mean, just say what you want about the glam period, but that was some fun times in rock music right there. So great stuff. Little REM Reckoning. This is one of their early releases from 1984. And one of my favorite REM albums too. I just think this is kind of less experimental and stuff. It's just kind of a very smooth, awesome sounding album. So definitely one of my favorites by them. But that's their 84 release. And of course, the geniuses themselves, The Cure. This is just the greatest hits, which is exactly what it says. And it's the greatest hits. It's Close to Me, Just Like Heaven, which again, in my opinion, is the greatest pop song of all time. Love Song and Friday I'm in Love, like on and on and on. Just a lot of great stuff on that 2 LP greatest hits there. And Better Than Ezra, which is some awesome VCLT that I received just a little while ago. Finally got around to listening to this. This is their newer release from 2024. And it was actually pretty solid. I was pretty surprised. Sometimes those bands from back in the day, you never know what their newer stuff is going to be like, but that was a very, very solid listen. And another one that I tend to go to quite a bit, Frankie Miller Band, and this is The Rock. This is a really, really great album. I mean, just such a it's not folky and it's not rock. I don't know. I don't know exactly how you describe it, but it's just it sounds just like the album cover looks. Just really, really good stuff. It's just kind of a bluesy, folksy type of thing, but also like with some good soul and some of his delivery on here. So I've always said, if you haven't heard this album before, check out the song Bridgeton. And if you do dig that song, dive into the rest of this album because it's really, really good stuff. And that's from 75. Little Bobby Hutcherson right here, Stick Up. Again, just another great jazz legend right there, Tone Poet release from 1966. And last two, Little Stereo Lab. Again, you kind of know their sound, just so classic across the board. That's their 1992 release of Switched On. And last but not least, we're going back some of the 80s R&B, the Bar-Kays, and this is Dangerous. This is their release from 84. And of course, the gigantic hit off of here was the song Freak Show. Again, another classic from the early 80s. So there you go, VC. That's what's been spinning kind of since the last What's Been Spinning video. As always, let me know if there's any favorites in there that you like. Let me know what you think, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.